On Deputy Nash's point, yes, the Department has already met the IFWA several times. Irish Equity, Screen Guilds Ireland, Screen Producers Ireland, Screen Ireland and Animation Ireland. Yes, the Department has reviewed the credit regularly under the tax expenditure guidelines, reviewed in 2022, reviewed in 2018, and indeed in 2015 it was restructured from an investor-led credit to a corporation tax credit following a review. The new register, the point was raised around open calls for staff production. A new register has been developed for crews so they can register for work, register their availability for work and their skills, and more open calls are being used for staff productions regarding closed shop hiring process. I just want to put that on the record. And the other piece is around the question around the language around blacklisting and 1930s tactics and 1930s industrial revolution. I have to say, from my own perspective, we live in an Ireland with an extraordinarily complex and advanced employment law architecture, and that language is very much of that era, and it isn't relevant to a vibrant Ireland of today. Individual cases must be assessed through the Workplace Relations Commission. I don't think there's any deputy in this House that would like to undermine that or, you know, in any way step away from the industrial relations architecture and the workplace relations architecture that has been developed. And it's really important that individual cases are litigated or assessed in that forum. I recall reading, quotes from the Budgetary Oversight Committee from different workers' representatives who speak very positively about the industry. But I don't want to read those because I don't want any allegation that they represent this or they represent that. In my own constituency, I have people who I know, who I work with. I have friends working in the industry who speak very positively about it. I have constituents who work there who tell me that they're happy with the environment as it is. They're happy working from project to project. They are happy with the opportunities that it creates. And I don't accept the picture that has been created here today. I think it is one-sided, perhaps, and doesn't represent the complete suite of experience that is actually going on in the industry and the working practices in the sector. So I think there's more nuance in reality to what's going on. I do want to thank Deputy Boyd Barrett for bringing this forward. I would like to reiterate that the recommendations outlined in the report cover a broad spectrum of areas that impact the audiovisual sector. I think on the area of quality employment, as I've said, Ireland has a comprehensive body of employment equality and industrial relations legislation, and all employers, regardless of sector, are responsible for ensuring their employees receive all protections afforded them under employment legislation. What I never hear, though, is just about the risk that employers or that producers take in terms of the financing and the creation of projects as well. And I'm not saying that one supersedes the other in any way. It's just that I don't hear that side of this articulated. And of course, there is nowhere to work unless people go out and try to create projects. The international norm, as I understand it, for this industry is to operate on a project-to-project basis. That is the result of the life cycle of audiovisual productions, particularly live action, encompassing concept development, pre-production, filming, editing, post-production. In an industry of that nature, quality employment for cast and crew doesn't necessarily mean continuous long-term year-round employment with a single employer. Rather, there is a focus on a steady pipeline of work opportunities, skills development and career progression. And I think that's where this tax credit is so important in enabling to develop an industry at scale that gives people those opportunities without difficulty to try to get the projects that they want to work on insofar as possible. At any given time in a fluctuating economy, but that sort of resilience of a sector gives people the best possible opportunities. It also allows for the maximum creativity, which allows people to move between different types of projects, whether it's international films or smaller indigenous productions or regionally focused productions, and to gain a really wide breadth of experience and have a very varied, stimulating career. The nature of the sector was considered as part of the collective bargaining process. It is something different, and it is reflected in agreed pay rates and in the industry pension scheme, which operates under the Construction Pension Workers scheme. On skills and training, Training and skills development will continue to be a strong focus in the sector. The sector can't continue to develop without it. It's absolutely essential, and we want people to have the highest skill development that is possible. I understand the competency framework for crew, developed by Screen Ireland in conjunction with Screen Guilds Ireland, is providing a concrete system for Section 481 skills tracking. Shadowing training and access schemes for industry skills across the country are extending the reach of training and upskilling as part of the National Training Academy Steering Group's network. It's also worth noting that a large amount of information is submitted to the Department of Tourism, Culture, Arts, Gaeltacht Sports and Media as part of a Section 481 application, and that allows a thorough, in-depth examination by the Department of each Section 481 application to take place. A skills development officer is nominated by each production to deal with queries, and that individual oversees the skilled needs analysis process, the implementation of the proposed skills development plan and the recording of skills activity carried out during production. As part of the post-project compliance report, a producer company is required to declare that all conditions contained in the Section 481 certificate were complied with. They then must be able to provide evidence of compliance with Section 481, with the conditions of the Section 481 certificate, including in relation to skills development and employment. On copyright, again, I must point out that efforts are underway to understand the issues from the concerns of those impacted. There has been an independent facilitator appointed to meet key stakeholders to understand the issues of concern, and that process is ongoing. Similar to the position with employment rights, the relevant copyright legislation applies in any event, whether or not it is referenced as part of the process for Section 481 or not. Returning to the committee's recommendations with regard to the enhancement of the credit, as I've said, those matters will be considered by Minister McGrath in advance of Budget 2024. I know a number of deputies asked me about the stakeholder forum, and I did say I would come back to it in my concluding comments. And what I can tell deputies is that the officials in the Department of Finance are discussing that with officials in the Department of Tourism, Culture, Gaeltacht, Arts, Sports and Media about how to move forward with the recommendation. I think what's really important is that anything that is created has to be an opportunity to constructively address issues and is not a forum for adjudicating workplace relations issues, because that would absolutely undermine the statutory process of the Workplace Relations Commission. I am aware that, that obviously this has come up with the Budgetary Oversight Committee twice in October last year. I'm also aware, obviously, in July 2018, the Joint Oireachtas Committee published a report that related to this. The committee called on the Irish Film Board, now Screen Ireland, to constitute its film forum. I understand that the efforts began on that in 2018, but that a difference arose between people in the industry as to what that looked like, what that mechanism might be, and what it was actually going to do. So I think it's important that the officials in the Department of Tourism, Culture, Gaeltacht, Arts, Sports and Media can reflect on that engagement and work out how to create a forum where issues can be addressed in a collaborative way that doesn't step across any employment law architecture, which would not be within this, which I don't believe would be permissible or necessarily helpful. So I want to thank deputies for the report and for the debate.